okay? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Hello there. It's nice to see you all. Today's webinar is the one with the most people joining in so far. So we're very happy about that. And it's also the first webinar that will be co-hosted with an integrator, a client of ours that we work very closely with. So let's get started. The topic of today's webinar will be use cases that are used to cover impacts of the pandemic of coronavirus, COVID-19, and of course Sigfox-based use cases. And the event will be hosted by me. My name is Vojtěch Plášil. I am a support engineer here at SimpleHW. I recognize a lot of people. I've already been in touch in the chat. So hello, everybody. Hello to the ones that have not seen or interacted with me before as well. And the other host today will be Jordan Gayraud, CEO and co-founder of MerciYanis. These guys are a French IoT startup from La Beche, and they do a lot of cool things, including facility management, which will be what Jordan will be talking about mostly today. So, without further ado, I think it's time to get started. So let's go to the first slide. Just a basic introduction. This webinar is for anybody interested or working in the Sigfox ecosystem, and people who want to get into as well. So let me actually adjust something over here. Jordan will be joining us shortly. I will be hosting the first part of the presentation. Jordan will join later, but he's out there and he's looking forward to meeting you all as well. The technical level of this presentation is written here as intermediate. It really depends. For some people, it might be. For some people, it might be very easy. So don't hesitate to ask if you don't understand something. I will always be happy to answer you. Now, let's talk a little about the format. It says 40 minutes presentation, 15 minutes QA session. This is not a fixed time schedule. When we get over what we need to say, we get over it. The QA session can be longer, it can be shorter, depends on how many questions you guys will have. And that's it. The first part of the presentation will be hosted by me. I will talk about the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic and how the consequences of the pandemic can be solved with IoT and especially Sigfox devices. Then I will give you a short introduction to some use cases that we have been doing with our devices, and then I will give word to Jordan, who will go over the use cases that he's been implementing using our devices. All in all, I think you have a lot of things to look forward to. So let's get started. Yeah, this is me. This is Jordan. And yeah, let's start with a basic introduction. I suppose nobody missed and everybody knows that we're still amidst a global pandemic of such significance that we haven't seen anything like this since 100 years ago, when the Spanish flu pandemic was sweeping throughout the world. I think I can speak for everybody that this is something nobody was expecting that we will live through in our lives, but here it is, and we have to deal with it. The pandemic has changed a lot of things, not only in daily lives, but in the mentality of people as well. And I have put together some things that we think are good for further IoT development. So let's go over these right now. First of all, I will just introduce the basis upon which we want to build the IoT things, which means that I will just briefly go over the consequences of the pandemic, how the world has changed, and what can be done with IoT in order to make it more efficient, to help people, etc. So of course, the pandemic, the virus is spread by human contact, which means that workplaces, public places, and generally places where people gather were closed or are closed for some countries. And of course, this is only during the peak of the pandemic. Of course, it ideally should go down and the places should reopen. We're seeing that in Europe. In America, it's debatable if we will see that or not. Uh, but at the moment, we are currently out of the worst phase of the pandemic, at least in here in the Czech Republic and in Central Europe. And I think that the rest of Europe, except for Russia, maybe, is also out of the worst. But we have seen, of course, significant impacts on our work lives, personal lives, and everything. So a lot of workforce has moved from the office to the home office. That is one point that I want to make. According to the CIPD, which is a British HR organization with a lot of history, um, around 60% of all impacted workers, workers that were impacted by the pandemic, of course, moved to work from home only and never went to the office during the peak of the pandemic, while 40% of the people uh, who went to the office for an average of 1 day per week and stayed home for the rest of the week. This, of course, made a lot of changes in normal working day life. It meant that non-commercial and even commercial buildings and facilities where people gathered were suddenly left abandoned, and most people stayed home, etc. A lot of businesses also was closed because they were considered non-essential, and this is something that has had a tremendous impact on global economy as well. Most people, of course, stayed home, which meant, again, this point meant a lot of changes. For example, usage of social networks and online services in general went up significantly. Remote working started to take place in most places in the world. And of course, most shopping was done online and not in person. Even for groceries and stuff like that. I remember that one of the largest providers of online grocery shopping in here was completely overwhelmed for about 3 weeks. And if you wanted to place an order, you would have to wait for a week in order to get into a slot, which is really crazy if you consider that. No, of course, non-commercial institutions where people gather close to during the peak of the pandemic. This means schools, churches, and other places like that, even state government facilities, etc. The point of increased demand for specific niche goods is just a quick point that I will not go over for a long time. This means an increased demand for masks, disinfectant, and personal protection equipment, stuff like that. Even pills and other medicaments. Okay. What we've also seen, and this is probably the saddest part of the pandemic, is the public healthcare system being overloaded in a lot of places, especially in Europe, in Italy, in America, in New York City. Of course, Asia, China got hit the hardest, as it is and was the starting place of the pandemic. And we have a few use cases dedicated to that as well. And what's important to note is that as the pandemic progresses, we were so far, as I've talked about the peak, we have the peak behind us, but the impact will still be felt, I think, for months and in some cases for several years from now. So of course, this is a good place to implement IoT as well. And the reason why I will talk about the reasons in the next slide. So let's go there. And here is and this is just a quick list we put together. Of course, you can be very creative when it comes to uh, helping lessen the impacts of the pandemic with IoT. It's completely up to you what you want to do, but some of the major use cases that we've listed include facility management of closed and commercial, non-commercial buildings. Jordan will talk about facility management much more than I will, because that's the main focus of his company. But let me just mention that IoT can be used to monitor that the buildings were not broken into, the temperature and the humidity are okay, that the water drainage and water uh, systems in general are safe from any conditions for Legionella and other various bacteria to grow. And of course, this is based upon the fact that most people stayed home during the pandemic, and the buildings were left abandoned. So instead of somebody going to take care of the place and watching it and having to be in there, IoT can be used to monitor the building remotely, and even save money, save time, etc. The next major point we want to address is work efficiency, which in concrete use cases can be talked about as monitoring the chairs of remote workers to know that they are working when they are supposed to be working. Monitoring of various meeting rooms in order to know how many people are using the meeting rooms, monitoring of chairs of office buildings, because people are normally working from offices. They're back to the normal work cycle in most cases. So you know how many workers are present at your company at any given time, stuff like this. This is mostly about monitoring the presence of employees. Of course, monitoring usage of doors that Jordan will talk about comes into mind, stuff like that. A major and a very important point is healthcare and use cases that are related to healthcare, because in the pandemic, the healthcare system, as we've seen, was not prepared to handle the massive amounts of people that got the sickness and required medical care, such as being in an ICU and stuff like that. We have seen understaffed medical workers. We have seen equipment not being available for everybody. We have seen not enough, let's say, breathing machines, because COVID, of course, is a disease that attacks your lungs first and foremost. We have seen all of these things, and it has shown us that we were not prepared for this. We were not prepared at all. And so we can use IoT in order to better manage, for example, the protective equipment, to monitor where it is, if it's on the way, where most of the making distribution of medical equipment in general more efficient should be the most major point of healthcare related use cases, I think. Then again, you've got things like panic and signal buttons for hospitals and old folks home, because of course, if you have 200 people in one wing of the hospital, and they are not in ICU, but they are not in a great condition. Their condition is semi-several, let's say. So you give them a button and they press it, and the staff knows exactly which bed to go to and which patient to take care of. This is just something that came into my mind, and it's, of course, we're talking about the peak of the pandemic that is right now behind us, but if there is a second wave, this could be a very useful thing for overwhelmed hospitals. And not only hospital patients, of course, it can be people in old folks homes and stuff like that. I think the single panic button is a very simple use case that can have a lot of useful and important impact. Then, of course, you have monitoring dispensers of disinfection and stuff like that, taking care of the facility of the hospital itself. You know, a lot of things come into mind, transporting medication and vaccines, which requires a certain constant temperature. You can do that with IoT devices. You can both track the package and monitor the temperature at the same time. It's, of course, possible to do this, stuff like that. Public safety is a point that is not as major as the rest of the other ones, but I think it's worth noting, because I think that a lot of public services will require less people to do manual work in person. For example, if you want to monitor road equipment or anything else that's outside is owned by the government, and the government is supposed to take care of it, IoT can be used to make sure that the government does not need somebody to go out there into the second wave of the pandemic, let's say. And you could have devices that monitor the tilt of road signs, for example, instead of a guy that goes and checks every single road sign in his area that he's supposed to take care of. It can be solved by devices that can work on Sigfox. So I think I put this point in here because of that. Of course, I talked about that online business in general, not just entertainment, but also online shopping, has seen a major raise during the pandemic because everybody was bored, locked at home. And as I've talked about, the major provider of online grocery shopping, they didn't have the capacity to handle all of their orders. So the orders were delayed by up to a week, which is crazy if you think about it. Because, of course, everybody is used to going to the store and just getting the groceries in a couple of minutes, a couple of hours at most. So waiting for a week is crazy. I understand, of course, that having the groceries delivered is better than going into the store when you're in the middle of a pandemic. But still, waiting for a week is it's just not possible for most people. So IoT can also be used to increase warehouse efficiency for companies that provide online services such as grocery shopping. Of course, you can do it like Amazon, who has the budget to create complete AI systems to manage this. But if you are a smaller business, then you can use Sigfox, let's say, not exactly a budget solution, but a cheaper solution with a good efficiency to increase the efficiency in the warehouse in general. Yeah, and the last point is using the sensors for monitoring things that were done manually by people in person. I've already talked about that. So yeah, I think this should be it. I think that we've gone over a few interesting things. Let's have a look at the use cases. We have a few of them, I think 4 or 5. And please note that these use cases are already in use. They, if you would be interested in them, we can provide them at any given time. They are not prototypes; they are ready to go. The first one we've chosen is a soap dispenser. I have the thing with me. Let me show it on camera. The soap dispenser. Soap dispenser. That's what That's how it looks like. Yeah, it's the exact same thing as in the photo, and the device is inside. Okay, I can't open it now. uh, Anyways, the device is inside, as you can see, and if you look at the internal mechanism of the dispenser, you will see that there's a little magnet on the side. And what the device does is that it will notice a presence of your hand. So if you go like that, you've seen the blue light. That means the soap was dispensed because, of course, you put your hand under the dispenser. And what the device does, based on the movement of the magnet, is that it counts the amount of switches that will happen, and based on the number of the counts, you can be notified when the dispenser needs filling replacement, when the soap or the disinfectant is not there, when it just goes out. So you can be notified of that if you measure the exact amount of soap or disinfectant that is let out with every single movement of the internal, you say, and then you can measure the capacity of that. The device we used for that, as you can see on the photo, is a simple pack. It has to be a simple pack with a reed switch because, of course, it works with the magnet. And the mode we used for this was the reed counter, which we have adjusted some time ago, and now it works in interrupt mode as well, which means that it will catch all of the dispenses that you will do. It's possible to use read on off, but you would get a message every time the internal mechanism would move. So we think the read counter is better because it allows you to store the number of read switches and then append it based on time, let's say every 6 hours or something like that. Okay, the next use case we have is office chair monitoring. Not necessarily office chair, it can be a home office chair, of course. And the purpose of that is to optimize working conditions such as lighting, heating, cooling, etc., cleaning expenses. Because if you have a room that nobody touched for a week, it's not crucial to clean it to every last bit, because you will know that there's not a lot to clean. And of course, the main purpose of this is to monitor work efficiency, so working hours, whether at the office or home, and it can be quite an efficient solution for this. The device we use on this one is the Simple Pack. Any Simple Pack with an accelerometer will do, which means that even the smaller device without the Wi-Fi module can do this. And the mode that we use for this is track me, because what it does is the mode will send you a message when movement is detected, which means that if you sit into the chair that has the device mounted on the back of it, as you can see in the photo, the device will send you a message. And because nobody is completely still when working, some people wiggle around, and stuff like that. So the device will keep noticing the movement right up until the point until the chair is empty. So you will know with a slight delay exactly how long the chair was occupied, and that's basically it. It's quite a simple use case that can have a lot of potential. The next one is the Legionella. I've already, just a moment. Get thirsty when you talk consistently for tens of minutes on end. The third use case we have is monitoring the Legionella bacteria, the ideal growth of the bacteria. I've already hosted a webinar where I go into more details than what I will talk about now. So you can go to our website and check it out. I think I speak about the disease itself and how the mode works and stuff like that for, I think, 30 minutes, something like that. Just to give you a quick introduction to this, as I said, you can watch the other webinar I hosted about this. Is that Legionella is a bacteria that grows in stale water in certain conditions. You can see 20 to 45 degrees Celsius. The bacteria multiplies quite quickly. It multiplies the cells split every 4 hours, which means that the bacteria grows quickly, and it is necessary to prevent these conditions as quickly as possible. So if you have temperature of, let's say, 30 degrees in still water for an hour, then it's okay, because the bacteria will not have the time to multiply. But if it's for a day, then you might be in trouble, because the bacteria already started to multiply. What we do in order to prevent the growth of the bacteria is that we monitor the temperature of the water, and we do it through pipes. And as you can see in the picture, we have a simple industry device with two external cables. I'll show it on camera right here. This is what it looks like. The NTC cable is a cable like that has a metal tip like this. At the end, you stick it to a pipe and it measures the temperature with a very high precision. That's basically it. And we have implemented a special mode for this. We call it the Legionella mode. I will not go into further details. You can check it out in the other presentation, but so far we have had great results with this. And this is a massive use case, because you need to make sure that the bacteria will not grow in a lot of places, a lot of facilities, schools, and stuff like that. Yeah, also the device will not be available as a standard device that you can purchase through the eShop. It will be project based. So if you think you could make use of this, contact us and we will give you a quote. Okay, and the last use case I want to talk about is the simple panic button for hospitals and elderly people. I've already talked about how it works. Basically, what it does is that imagine you're a patient, you have COVID, you are in a room with 200 other people who have COVID, and you feel your condition is getting worse. The nurses, of course, are too busy to watch every individual patient there every 5 minutes. So what you do is that you press the button because you feel your condition is worse, and they come to you and check you. That's very simple, very clean, very efficient. What you need is any simple pack device that has a button, and you will use the very basic press me mode that we ship the devices in most of the time. In order, because of course Sigfox has a delivery rate of 90%, in order to make sure that all of the messages are delivered, it would be ideal to use a single repeater or a micro base station in the hospital wing. But now we're talking details that are that differ case by case. So yeah, this is it. Simple panic button device for hospitals and elderly people. That's the fourth use case we've picked. Also, if we didn't cover a use case that you want to cover and you're not sure what device and device settings to use, you can go to this link. You can submit the definition of your use case, and we'll get back to you with the best device, best settings, etc., and a quote if you want that. No problem with that. And now I'd like to give word to Jordan from MerciYanis, who will be continuing the presentation from now on.
Hello, is everybody can see me and hear me? Okay, so hello everybody, I'm Jordan, and I'm a co-founder of MerciYanis. We are a French company making a solution for facility managers. So the thing is that we noticed that the incidents in a professional environment generates material cost and insatisfaction for everybody, and the existing tools are heavy and complex to use. So we designed MerciYanis for the facility managers in order to prevent them as soon as an incident happens in their buildings. For that, we mostly use IoT solutions, like autonomous plug-and-play sensors, and also connected buttons like the SimplePack to make the declaration of an incident easier for employees. We are based at the IoT Valley, which is a French ecosystem based in Toulouse, dedicated to the IoT. It is a large ecosystem with more than 40 companies operating with Sigfox. And a lot of the companies here know SimpleHW and work with them. So yes, the main solution we provide for the companies is used with the SimplePacks buttons from SimpleHW. And I will present you more in details what we do, specifically based on COVID-19 use cases. So the first use case is door monitoring. We used the SimplePack hidden in a box. The SimplePack is fixed on the door and is hidden for the employees. And there is a magnet. So Vojtěch told before of the read switch mode. The thing is, when the door is closed, the button and the magnet are close to each other. And so the device knows that the magnet is here and it sends us a message that the door is closed. When the door is open, we receive the message of the SimplePack not detecting the magnet anymore. With this use case, we can identify the rooms that are used by the employees. The point of this is that the facility managers can inform the employees in real time about what rooms are used and what rooms they should use, because the point is to not use the same rooms than the other employees to avoid the virus propagation. Another use case is using the SimplePack as a counter mode, and we can count opening and closing of the doors, and then we know what rooms are really used more than the others, and this allows us to optimize interventions for cleaning teams. So the facility managers can, in MerciYanis, he can select the cleaning team, like the manager of the cleaning team that can be warned by mobile, by mail, or by WhatsApp. And when a certain limit is reached of counting of opening and closing of the door, so the limit of usage of the room, the cleaning people are automatically prevented, and they can apply the cleaning operation inside the room. A customer use case we have is an economic school in Paris. So the economic school opened again after the coronavirus break, the quarantine, and they use SimpleHW buttons connected to MerciYanis to know in real time what rooms are used, to manage the schedule of all the students, and they prevent automatically the cleaning people to go to the rooms that should be cleaned in priority. So another use case is really focused on the button. So these are the use cases we do a lot. The first one is a good example because we interconnected several IoT solutions. So we are working with infrared sensors that we put at the entry of some rooms. The infrared sensor is able to count the number of people coming in the room and coming out. So with the facility managers, we define limits of people coming in the room. And when this limit is reached, an incident is automatically created inside MerciYanis. We prevent the facility manager by several communication ways, like mobile, mail, or WhatsApp. And we also directly warn the cleaning team. The cleaning team comes because they receive the alert. They make the operation of cleaning, and then they can click on the SimplePack button that will automatically mark the intervention of cleaning people as done, resolve the ticket in MerciYanis, and resets the pointer on the infrared sensor. The infrared sensor is not provided by SimpleHW, but we managed to integrate the two solutions together to make a powerful IoT solution. A customer use case is Village Nature. So this is a center park based in Paris. They are the people managing the facilities for the visitors coming in Disneyland Paris. And we put infrared sensors into the different bathrooms of the parks. And when there is too much people per day coming in the bathrooms, the infrared sensors automatically detect it. And the cleaning people came by, press the button, and then the intervention is marked as done. Everyone has the information, facility managers included, and the counter of the infrared is automatically reset to 0. Another use case is just like a panel we designed ourselves to signal lack of essential stuff after COVID-19 virus. So to understand, we put the SimplePack buttons inside panels like the two illustrated. Maybe I can show you one. So this, for example, is a panel we use. So it is not a COVID-19 special use case, but it is a normal use case, standard one. So we designed ourselves our panel and we put the SimpleHW button inside. And then when an employee is facing an incident, he just has to click on the button. And then we automatically put the intervention in MerciYanis. So this time, we developed specific panels for COVID-19. So in the second panel, the blue one you see on the screen, you can see that it is used to signal a lack of soap or a lack of mask. And the specific use case we have is with CGI, which is an IT company in France. They have a lot of employees on the building. In the building, we installed the solution. They have like 400 employees. And after the quarantine, they are allowed to open again the buildings, but not for all the employees. And they put soap dispensers and masks free for the employees at several points in the buildings. And we came by and put some panels next to the soap and the masks, along with disinfectant wipes, because the button and the panels are resistant to this product. So the employees, they can clean the buttons before pushing it. And if there is a lack of soap or a lack of mask, they just have to click on the button and the facility managers receives automatically the alert with the specific space, the specific point where in the building where there is a lack. With this, we can guarantee the security of the employees and guarantee that their coming back to their offices is working well. Last use case is not about opening again the buildings after the COVID-19, but is about how to handle my building when I'm in quarantine period and no one is inside. So for this, we are using two sensors provided by SimpleHW. The first one is called SimpleLeak. It detects water or liquid on the floor. So you just have to put it on the floor, and it automatically detects with two sprinkles in the bottom of the water, in the bottom of the device. It automatically detects like water. So when it happens, we automatically warn the facility manager, like all the time, mail, mobile, WhatsApp. So if the facility manager is not on the site, he automatically receives the alert in real time, and he can manage to make the intervention in the better time and avoid too much cost for the company. Because for the water leak, for example, if you detect it within 1 hour, it is a small amount of water. But if you wait like 1 day, it could cost thousands and thousands of euros to your company. We have two customer use cases for this. So first one is Promology. It is a French company that is using the sensor to monitor specific or technical equipment. We have devices just next to water balloons, for example. And the second one is Carrefour Properties. Carrefour is a large French company owning several malls, and they are using the water leak sensor to avoid too much water on the floor, on the roof, because they had a problem several years ago. So the roof of one of the mall has fallen apart because too much water was stuck on the floor, and there was too much weight, and the floor didn't make it. Second use case is temperature humidity monitoring. So this is with a new sensor provided by SimpleHW called SimpleMeter. It detects temperature and humidity in the space where you put it. Same use case, we automatically warn the facility manager as soon as the incident happens. So the incident can be too much heat or too much cold or too much humidity. And we have specific use cases that happened during quarantine. So for example, SCC is an IT integrator in France. They have this device inside their buildings. And during quarantine, they put the device in the server room, and there was a problem with the VMC. And because of that, it was too hot in the server room. And so they have detected it, even if there was no one on site, and even if the facility manager wasn't there. And he could he managed to fix this within the day. So they were really happy with that. And another example is Freewheel. So it's a French startup based in Paris. In MerciYanis, with this sensor, you can visualize a graph that shows you the evolution of the temperature within days or months or weeks. And they put the sensors in open spaces for employees, and there was always too hot. So the facility manager, who is called Deborah, she was able to prove to her external contractor that was in charge of the clean that there was too hot in the open spaces, and it was all the time. So it allowed her to renegotiate the contract with her external contractors, and so she was really happy with that. Okay, thank you for your time, for the listening. Now it is time for questions. If you have me or for Vojtěch.
Hello there. I'll jump quickly in and start the questionnaire with my question. Jordan, how did you prevent? You talked about the button case where the cleaners click the button after the cleaning is done, connected to the infrared sensors. How do you prevent the normal people who use the bathrooms or the facilities? How do you prevent them from clicking the button? Did you hide it, or
yes?
How is it done?
For the use case of the button connected to the infrared sensors, there was no need to hide it, because there was a specific rooms for the cleaning people where we put the buttons. So this was not a room accessible for normal customers or employees. So there was no danger. But for the use case of the door, you're right, it's a good question. The button is fixed on the door, so people can click on it. So we hide it in a small box we designed ourselves. So this is a box that has a moving part to access the button, because the point is that when the cleaning team came by and make the intervention, they can unlock this little box and click on the button. And we know that when someone is clicking on the button, because it is hidden, it has to be the cleaning people, so we can mark the intervention as done.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, to answer Sabello in the chat, because I've recently noticed that when somebody writes a question into the chat, it is not seen in the video afterwards. So John, if you get a question, please just read it out loud. Sabilo asks if the devices work for RC1, and yes, they do. They do work in RC1.
Okay. There is Rolf asking more information on the infrared sensors used in the village nature use case and how they connect to work together. So the infrared sensors are made by another IoT provider named PIP IoT. They are from New Zealand. And how did we manage to connect the SimplePack and the infrared sensors? We made it through our backend. So it's on MerciYanis part. We interconnected the sensors on our Sigfox backend, and then we know that this button is linked to this infrared sensors. So when we receive messages from one or other devices, they are like put on the same group inside MerciYanis, and so we can automatically handle click or counting from one of each other.
Very cool.
The company name of the infrared sensor is PIP IoT, so it's PIP and IoT. Yes, that's it.
Okay, fellas, do we have any more questions? We have several people typing. And nobody's typing anymore. Okay. So maybe it would be a good time to close this webinar, end it. And if you have any questions, you can contact us or MerciYanis through the standard ways, email, stuff like that. So thank you all for coming. Especially thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to do this. I think it was very helpful for all of us. And okay, we got more people typing. Okay, people are thanking us. Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you for the invitation, Vojtěch. And I will be pleased to answer any more questions if you contact me by mail.
Okay, always good to see you, Jordan. Thanks once again for taking the time to do this. And let's end the webinar right here. And I hope everybody will have a great day and a great weekend, since it's Thursday and we have Friday tomorrow. Okay, so I'm gonna end the webinar right now. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Take care. And see you in the next webinar.
See you then.